Welcome to Janus Corporation's Scaffold Safety Training for Fixed, Freestanding, and Rolling Scaffold. Projects with either fixed, freestanding, or rolling scaffolds require a competent person for scaffold construction and use. This competent person is someone with the knowledge of how scaffolds should be erected, how much weight the scaffold can handle once erected, and who has the authority to correct dangerous or hazardous conditions. Scaffolds must be inspected for defects before the start of each shift and after any event that could affect the scaffold's structural integrity. Scaffolds must have the duty load clearly labeled. The duty load is the weight per square foot it can support. The duty load includes the weight of the scaffold itself, dead weight, and the weight of the personnel, supplies, tools, and other items that will be on the scaffold at the same time, the live load. The scaffold must be able to support the dead load and 4 times the expected live load on a per square foot basis. Janus typically uses light-duty scaffolds that can support 25 pounds per square foot. This is plenty of support for the work Janus typically conducts. The typical mid- and heavy-duty construction scaffold can support 50 or 75 pounds per square foot. For large scaffolding projects, like those that extend above 1 story of a building, it is often required to have a structural engineer sign off on the design and construction of the scaffold. The minimum dimension of the base of any freestanding tower or rolling scaffold shall not be less than 1/3 the height of the scaffold unless such scaffold is securely tied off. This increases to 1/2 if the scaffold is a rolling scaffold that will be moved while workers ride the scaffold. Riding a rolling scaffold may be legal if you know how to do it, but is typically against Janus Corporation's Injury and Illness Protection Program safety procedures. On projects where we must ride rolling scaffold, additional training is required. Don't do this unless you have additional training. Scaffold sections must be clipped together with locking lock pins or bolts. Wheels must be attached using caster joints. Non-locking lock pins are not allowed for scaffolds. Locking lock pins are required for scaffolds. Bolted scaffold joints need to be checked often for bolts that have started to loosen. Caster joints are where scaffold wheel attachments are made. If you see a scaffold section that isn't pinned or bolted correctly, has been damaged, or has come loose, immediately notify the supervisor. Scaffold training. Ladder safety rules apply when access to scaffold is via scaffold ladder as opposed to stairs. This includes 3 points of contact while ascending or descending the scaffold. Do not try to carry tools, equipment, or supplies if they impede the 3 points of contact rule. Never move a rolling scaffold by pulling on objects from the top of the platforms. This can cause wheels to fall out. I saw this put a guy in the hospital once, broken shoulder, broken hip, and a shattered eye socket. Do not lean out from scaffolds when working. It is better to use tools that reach out to the work surfaces for you. Front edges of platforms should be no more than 18 inches from the face of the work, unless personal fall rest systems are used. Railings are required if the platform is 7.5 feet or more above grade. Employees on scaffolds where handrails or mid-rails are not 100% in place must be wearing fall protection. Metal scaffolds are conductive material. Keep them a safe distance from exposed and energized power lines or power sources. Employees must be protected from overhead hazards, which often means hard hats and eye protection are required while working on a scaffold. All materials stored on a scaffold must be for immediate use only. Scaffolds are not a proper storage location. Manually propelled mobile scaffolds must have horizontal and diagonal bracing at the bottom level and every 3rd level thereafter. Scaffold work platforms or decks over 7.5 feet must have a minimum handrails, mid-rails, toe boards, and proper access. Scaffolds shall not be erected, moved, dismantled, or altered unless under the supervision and direction of a competent person qualified in scaffold erection, moving, dismantling, or alteration. A competent person is anyone designated by the employer who, by reason of training, experience, or instruction, has demonstrated the ability to safely perform all assigned duties specific to the scaffold erection, moving, alteration, or dismantling. Things to remember. Ladder safety is the same for scaffold ladders as it is for step and extension ladders. Scaffolds taller than 7.5 feet per cal OSHA, 6 feet per federal OSHA, required handrails, guardrails, and toe boards. Janus does not allow workers to ride while rolling scaffold is moved, unless crew has been trained on this process specifically. Metal scaffolds conduct electricity. Use caution when working around live electrical systems. Scaffolds should be within 18 inches of the work being conducted, otherwise fall protection is required. All scaffold connections should be made with locking lock pins or bolts. Thank you for taking Janus Corporation's fixed, freestanding, and rolling scaffold training. Please proceed to the quiz.